Hey, welcome in. So we're here to do a quick little reading. I've got 3 different piles here, and you're welcome to pick any pile card that you'd like, or use these little tokens that I've got. Got a jar of amethyst here. That's a purple and sometimes clear kind of quartz stone that can be found in a few different places. These were some that someone that I knew collected. I may have to turn a light on for us overhead as well. I'm not sure. We'll see. I also have a rose, so that's pile 1. Pile 2 has rose petals here. These are collected from my yard where I'm at sometimes. And these are monarch butterfly wings. I'm not going to shake them around too much, but you can get the idea that they're very delicate, and these are wings that were left behind in our yard. So you have a choice of piles 1, 2, and 3. 1 being the amethyst, and this crossed card. 2 and 3 here. Take your time to sit with this and to see which one you'll pick. For each one of these, we're going to go through just about a maybe 15-20 minute reading, and you're welcome to wait until the live is done and to skip ahead to whichever one. You're welcome to sit through and listen to all the messages, because I have found that myself too, that sometimes you find that these are deeper and deeper messages for yourself, or messages about a period of growth, a metamorphosis that you're going through. So like cycles or phases of transmuting, transitioning, transformation, something like that. So feel free to stick around as long as you like. Card number 1 is the amethyst, and that is, again, this little jar of amethyst here. Let's see if I can hold it up into a way that you can actually see without that big glare. There you go, you can kind of see it there. And I have got my cauldron of coins here, and some chapstick, and a selenite over here to help. Coins for me are stability. I have a lot of coins show up for me in different ways. So the coins and pentacles and things like that being a stable protection element. So I'm going to go ahead and use that. And the selenite is here to help kind of cleanse and to make sure that whatever's going on, we're getting clarity. So this reading here should make us feel more clear as we go on. If at any point we find ourselves feeling more confused by what is coming up for us, by what's coming out standing out to us in the messages, whatever that is, then that's a sign to back up and to maybe take a pause. You can come back to the video, or you may not come back to the video, and I think any of those is fine. This video, I may not be the reader for you. This video may not be the video for you. And there are resources down in the description box that help if you are looking for other resources, in need of a therapy, someone to talk to, anything like that. And there's no shame in asking for that kind of help. But this is not a substitute for any other care or therapeutic service. This is not a substitute for coaching. This is not a substitute for therapy itself. This is not a substitute for medical advice. This is not a substitute for legal advice or any other kind of life advice. So let's get started. Pile 1. We're here for pile 1 this time. We've gotten through our pile 1. We're here for pile 1 this time. We've gotten through our disclaimer, and I appreciate you for staying here. Take a drink. And so, our amethyst here. Let's see if we can tilt that camera down so you can see more of what's going on here. We do have our die, which I think we're actually going to start, because I tend to forget if I don't. So we're going to start with the numerical message that we've got. So let's go there first. What message do you have for pile number 1? We got the number 5. And the number 5 corresponds to the Hierophant. I'm working on making a smaller list of my numbers. Um, how we learn through relationship, through structured groups with rules and assigned roles. What we feel pressed to rebel from or conform to. The card that we've got here is the Queen of Pentacles. And again, that card is crossed, so you can see this is the Queen of Pentacles head at this side, and this is where it ends. So this to me is in between, because this would be upright. To you, it's looking inverse, but to me, the reader, and since if I were reading it to you and I were drawing your cards out to you, I'd probably lay them down in front of you. But since I'm reading technically here, and I want to be able to see it better, I'm saying that this would be the upright position and this would be inverted, and this is kind of halfway in between. So there are different meanings for when a card becomes inverted. Is it could be blocked energy, it could be difficulty in some way, an ending, yeah, depletion, blockage, ending, something being impeded, which is kind of similar to a blockage. And so this Queen of Pentacles is a queen is somebody who is able to hone the element that they have there with them, this being the pentacle. This is someone who is able to hone that protection, that seed that pentacles represent, which is this. Let's get a better word to go from. Prosperity and wealth, physical experiences of the body, but it's a stable, supportive, nurturing, and fertile, receptive nature. The energy that sustains life. So, this is someone who has found themselves capable of sustaining life, their own life or another's. But they are someone who has put in a lot of work, possibly through, could be through they learned through groups of friends, because that's what was mentioned with the Hierophant. But this is also just maybe talking about you, maybe talking, maybe this card is to anchor you into reading yourself in these messages. So if this feels like you as someone who's just entered into a life phase, or the role of being the nurturer, whether that's for yourself or for others. And let's see what else we have to say for this one. I guess especially that little bunny down there. That little bunny. But that crossed energy again, what does that mean? Is the what is being impeded? So this is somebody who maybe entered this role but is struggling with what exactly that means. Maybe they don't think they're good enough. Maybe this is a sign about postpartum. And I'm just going to say right here again, if this is somebody who has even the inkling of thinking that postpartum could be a factor in what is going on, this is the place to ask. Like, this is the time right now in this video to take a pause and to go ask for help, to go find a way to make a plan to get some help. Whether that is that you sit down with your 3 best friends, or you make a phone call to your mom, or whoever it is that you need to talk to, make that plan now. And again, there are resources down in the description box that will help you if you need someone to just talk with you through the process, or to help you deal with your feelings before you move on to that next step. There are things like Warm Lines and other services that can help you just deal with your own personal emotional distress and crisis, and that's okay to ask for that kind of help. I am not an expert in postpartum. I'm not an expert in mental health issues, so I won't pretend to speak on those things, but we can go ahead and dig a little deeper in. If you are not someone who identifies with having postpartum, we'll continue. Five of Wands reversed. So this is about a conflict that falling out possibly after a conflict. And so this is, I mean, essentially these are people that are in here fighting. They have Five of Wands. So, it's about, wands are about creativity, and this is a card. Each suit has ups and downs, and this is a place where the creative power and the ability to spark creativity have caused some kind of discord, and that discord has, you know, essentially, like I said, falling out. Like the card is upside down, so the wands have fallen out. They no longer have the wands to A, create with, or B, to beat each other up with. They've lost that, and this is, it fell out of their hands. But I'm calling this as a conflict that didn't get resolved, that isn't, that isn't here where the energy is still moving through it. It's somewhere where things fell out, like things fell out from that energy that was being it was, conflict being two pieces of energy kind of working together and trying to figure out, is one of them going to take up more of the other? Is one going to let go of more and let that other have more? Are they going to find some way to balance out between the two of them? And rather than any more of that happening with these five people that are trying to create, it could just be that they didn't have a good foundation. 1 through 4 of the ace through 4 of that suit being the foundation, 4 being literally about a strong structure and foundation. So perhaps that is evidence of, that foundation not being substantial, and a castle made of sand, essentially. So a castle built on sand drifts into the sea eventually, right? That's Jimi Hendrix song. Like I don't think it's just him that does the song, but he does the song. So it's that idea that was a click from the microphone stand. So just this idea that maybe there's a hang up because we can't nurture in this conflict that happened, the way that things have happened. This thing can't be nurtured anymore, but perhaps we're putting our energy, our nurturance, our all of that supportive, stabilizing energy is probably still, at least mentally, going towards this conflict. And we're going to draw another card, when in reality that energy would probably be better spent investing in some way in yourself and in the work that you want to do. That energy would be much better invested in an apprenticeship that you want to take that will help get you closer to the life, the community. That's what the city here represents, is this like kind of close-knit community. It is, versus being out in nature, which is beautiful, but this is about being more independent. Whereas this is more about being collaborative, about finding a place that you fit into a neighborhood, into a, again, a community. So we're putting our nurturing energy into select things. And when we do that, we're saying that these things are of value. But if we're placing our nurturing energy into a conflict that has fallen out, like a conflict with someone we've fallen out with or something, and then we're taking that from ourselves in some way, that we are less and less able to pour into that which we're willing to do. Because this is somebody who's sitting comfortably in their room and they're like painting something, they're looking at it, there's looking at a reference image, and they're looking at anything, they're sitting in their socks, they're sitting in a comfy little office chair with a beautiful view of the city that they are in. So they just seem really comfortable in that space. So this is like not just work that they're doing, but it's work that they enjoy doing, possibly like in their is something that they find themselves doing in their own space. So, like, maybe they've created a house, um, or a home space that allows them to deal with that, to work with that in depth. And this is somebody who is, like, again, like, invested a lot. There's a lot of pentacles there, invested a lot of nurturing into this activity. And our last card is the Six of Wands. I'm going to look up some information about the Six of Wands because I want to get really accurate here. It's just a card that says triumph, pride, acclaim. And I think that's telling of what maybe we would like to have happen. So again, the blockage to me, the impediment here with this crossed card is, and that 5, I'm not forgetting that 5 being about the Hierophant and about how we learn to, what was it? Let's read it again. How we learn through relationship and through structured groups with rules and assigned roles, what we feel pressed to rebel from or conform to. So I'm going to go with what my intuition says, that is a rebellion from giving what we actually value the attention it deserves. Gosh, how do you afford your rock and roll lifestyle? You know, like that story of that through rebellion against this, the death machine, the systems that we live under, through rebellion to those things, people became rockers who would then go on to engage in substance use, and to the point of deteriorating their own well-being in their own bodies. And it that song, How Do You Afford Your Rock and Roll Lifestyle, I don't know what this is called, but it's like How It Goes, by Cake, and talks about how, like, you know, destroying yourself is not actually rebellion. And I don't know, this is a kind of an interesting thing to try to talk about. Yeah, so like the idea that through rebelling against the systems that dehumanize us and objectify us, that we can then dehumanize and objectify ourselves, or dehumanize and objectify another, and not be participating in that system, and not be, and be rebelling from that system. I think that is something that we tell ourselves, and it's not actually like there. So we have to be vigilant about our ability to participate in dehumanization and, what else did I say? Objectification, and which is a form of dehumanization. Specifically, that's what's coming to mind for me, is that, like, this idea that you can sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. I'm thinking too hard, getting my head. One, so our ability to pour into ourselves requires us to see that we are human. We have to make a choice, because, and I think that's a principle we have to set out for ourselves and make that agreement, you know, with ourselves, essentially, that I agree to see myself and to see others as human as much as possible, because dehumanization becomes such a casual practice in the society that we live in, that it's very easy to, you know, participate in the dehumanization of other people without realizing it. And I think that's because too, like, as somebody who has worked to dismantle rape culture specifically, when we look at rape culture, we recognize that there are lower tiers of this culture that help perpetuate and uphold these higher tiers of this triangle. So down here at the bottom, you have the jokes and the language and the small things that help make it invisibilize the pain and make it seem like it's a thing that happens over there. Like those people do sexual violence, but I am not capable of it, when in the reality is we're all capable of doing it, even whenever we think that we are doing everything in our power not to do it. And it really takes, again, vigilance to sit there and to recognize, like, I am human and that makes me capable of causing harm the same way that you are human and that makes you capable of causing harm. And that, like, through that, you know, again, keeping that principle at the top of our mind and reminding ourselves that we need certain things because we're human. Like we need to have our emotional needs met as well as our physical needs as well as our psychological needs. Like we have all of these needs that we need, and you can't piecemeal them out. Like you can't meet your just your physical needs as an adult, like what was done for you as a kid, possibly done for you as a kid, you know. So if during your childhood you had your physical needs met, but your emotional needs were not necessarily a priority to one or both of your parents, then like you may continue that pattern. And so like this being, even if it's just one of your parents, again, like you could have a really caring other parent. I have, you know, struggled with that myself, is that like idea is where do I put my attention? And it's like these things, these conflicts, these big ruptures, they can take up a lot of energy. And again, it makes sense that they do, but this is a like a redirect. This is a redirect you're being given, that should you find a way to call your power back to yourself and to claim that energy back from this experience and to draw it back into your core, that you can use that to work on something that will make you very proud of what you have accomplished. And it may not be that you, the Six of Wands, this is an accomplishment. This is not the 10 of cups. This is not, this is not a life-changing achievement and goal. It's, again, it's it's completion of a task. It's, you wanted to have a YouTube channel and 10 subscribers by the end of the year. You can reach a goal like that, like it's about, like, you want to make a certain number of sales of some original service or product that you have. You can do that. Those are goals that you can attain. And it's about that redirection. And here, now I'm getting a good story to tell. For me, this was a really important thing, was whenever I was dealing with the most overwhelming rumination on hurt, especially when trying to like separate from my mom, who I'm estranged from. I found that little things help me redirect to the activity of care. And then I was able to take that seed and amplify it into other ways of prioritizing care for myself over investing in ruminating or trying to fix or figure out what is going on with this conflict that was with my mom. I was able to redirect the energy, and it was a simple thing. Was every time that I thought of her, every time that the things she said would sometimes come to mind, or whatever it was, I noticed it, I would take a drink of water, because it's an act of care for myself, and I can't, overdo it really. I can, but I didn't. I was very careful. I was like, oh, just go take a little sip of water. I'll put some chapstick on. I'll do something, and it evolved again. Like at first, it was a sip of water. Eventually, it was that, and then it became easier and easier. I mean, and I was going to therapy last year for having a hard time brushing my teeth on a regular basis. Because the way that I was raised, I had an incredibly critical drill sergeant essentially going on in my head, telling me about how I needed to do this care act. But and no matter how much value I could see in it, I wasn't willing to put my energy into that. I was putting my energy into that which was pissing me off. And I was very fixated on it, and it just took time. It took time for me to be able to redistribute that energy into other things. So don't rush yourself and think, oh, I've thought about this today and therefore I failed. It's more of a, if I thought about it 90% of yesterday and I think about it 85% today of my day is spent thinking about it, and then by the end of the week I'm at 50% of my day is spent thinking about this conflict, then that's progress. Like it does not have to be monumental change and shift overnight. This is just about what can we do again to redirect that energy. Thank you, pile 1. I appreciate you for being here. And we're going to go on to pile 2. Pile 2 with rose petals, pink rose petals from my yard. Rose bush. They have not bloomed this year yet, which I got some advice about how to help that. But we'll see. Neither here nor there. If you have rose advice, go ahead and drop it in the comments. 2 of Pentacles inverted. This is someone who, okay, we'll start with it upright first. Upright. This is someone happily juggling 2 things, 2 pentacles, coins. And this represents the idea that each one of these is important, is an investment. Each one of these coins is an investment that they have made into something that they really care about, and they're juggling both of them. And the issue with this being inverted is that they have dropped the coins. So again, dropping the ball. That was something that we mentioned in the last reading as well. So it is possible that these readings again are connected. But yeah, let's go on. This is someone who, through trying to prioritize multiple things, has possibly let something fall. Oh, some kind of marsupials. I'm watching, I think it's badgers. Badgers and foxes. I'm watching a nature cam, of course. This is somebody who's dropped the ball on something that they said that they would prioritize, that they would make an effort to do, something that they said, possibly made an agreement with somebody that it was important to them, and then they were unable to follow through with that. And that happens. Like, we're human. We're not all going to be reliable all the time. But when we are not reliable, we can like fracture and diminish trust. And trust is a practice that we practice with other people. So it's not necessarily to say that like, oh, because you've diminished your trust or you've broken trust or you've done this or that it can't be repaired. But these are, again, things that take a lot of investment. And this is somebody who's at the very beginning of this journey of investing in this particular thing, whether that's a relationship, a person, yourself, whatever, or a goal that you're trying to reach. This is somebody who is kind of fresh, new in that journey. Number 2 is early on in the journey of Pentacles there. So we're also going to roll this die and see what message we'll get from the numbers. Number 2. This is an invitation to travel into the unconscious or the subconscious. This is about the High Priestess. This is about looking beneath the surface and recognizing that we have a tendency, intellect has a tendency to drive us to seek outward, to try to find and understand things through looking outward. And this is about how we have also an internal capacity to hold a lot of information and my book was returned to the library. That's fun. But yeah, just how we have a lot of internal landscape to explore, and that is perhaps the priorities that we are juggling. Is how do we be both introspective and someone out in the world, and that's something that I have and continue to work and struggle with, and I think struggle being that like I'm struggling for freedom to be able to, and so I think that that is something I will always struggle with. I don't think struggle is like this has this negative connotation to it. Like I literally am in a fight for my ability to be able to be who I am, and I I have some people on my side. I have some people who are not on my side, and that's okay for me. Like I'm okay with that at this point. Not because it is what I want or because it is what is I deserve or anything like that, but it is what is happening. Um, so let's continue on from here and see what other messages we have and see if you relate to that or if this is about some other type of prioritization that you or whomever this is about have dropped the ball on. What more can you tell us? I'm going to see if any of these come out if I shove them back in here. Sometimes I'm not sure if they really want me to take 4 cards at once. Here we go. We have a 2 of Swords inverted. Swords being about mental or mental things or words. Could be about mental health. This could be about literally this is a person who's blindfolded, but they have 2 swords. So they are, you know, limited in their capacity to see what others see. They are under the moon, which represents intuition. Being upside down, they possibly have diminished connection to their intuition because of some mental double-mindedness, some kind of mental blockage, impediment there that is keeping them from being able to wield these swords confidently. Like they were, when it was upright, they were wielding them confidently. So this is something that you wielded your words confidently, but now, and you wielded your intuition confidently, but now that maybe you've dropped the ball on this priority, that intuition and that connection and that ability to use your words has all been compromised in some way, has all, you know, diminished in some way. There's a lot to say here, but I'm not getting down to all of it because there's a lot of cards. But every time that I go this is a big story. So perhaps there's a big story you told yourself about your worth or about your safety and well-being, being connected to being a good person, like being connected to being capable of showing up and saying and doing what needs to be said and done, which is an important thing. But again, I think we just talked about this, is that, like, you know, trust requires us to own up to when we are reliable and when we're not reliable. You know, trust requires us to just say, I'm not feeling like I can be as present with my words right now, and I'm going to have to revisit this conversation in a week, in 3 days, in 24 hours. It's about finding that way. Like, how do we set a boundary that says, I can talk about this, I can talk with you, but we can't do it this way. We have to do it in a way that I have to be in a quiet setting. I can't be at work. Totally reasonable. Like, just like little things like, um, I need to take a moment to ground and to find out what I need. It's just, how do we tap into those things, and how do we, even if, um, you know, this upright card has somebody who's got a blindfold on, so that may be indicative of the fact that we have had some sense of ours compromised again, but we are seeing it as a unpleasant experience only, and rather than recognizing that it's a challenge, it's not what we expected, it's not what we wanted, and it's not pleasant. We can own all of that, but that through recognizing it as unpleasant and that it is happening, that we can try to find a way, to be that person whom we could be on the journey of the swords. Is we can be the person who sits here confident, calm, and waiting with our swords, and able to respond rather than react, because this is somebody who's ready and willing and able to respond, but they're not going to react to every little thing that crosses their path, to every wind that blows. They're not going to see everybody around them. They're specifically waiting on someone to come and engage with them on their level, probably with at least as many swords as them, right? Little badgers and this fox, they're beefing. I don't know if I should call it that, saying that. They are not collaborating, though. Now it's just one little fox. Any more messages for pile 2? What else do we have? The star. So this is someone who has, I'm not sure I can show this picture, so I'm not going to lift this card up right now, but this is someone who has essentially 1 foot. One half of them is on land, and they are watering that land. They are nurturing, they're providing sustenance for the land, and then they're also pouring a jug of water back into a pond, which they have a foot in that pond as well. So this is somebody who is of both earth and water. This is somebody who has 1 foot in, what is it? Feet on the ground, head in the clouds. It's that kind of idea, is that they are firmly planted in reality and logic, as well as being firmly planted in an emotional sense, like in themselves, with others. There's somebody who is very in touch with what is emotionally maybe going on with other people. There's somebody who is able to, but in this reading particularly, I think that this is a sign that, you have this ability to access both emotionality and logic. You have both an emotional body and a logical, rational body. So you have the irrational and the emotional, and these are not two things that are at odds with each other. We'll see what this means in a sec. I'm gonna hold that out. That's our shadow card right now. So, this is a sign that there's imbalance. The card's upright, whatever, it's not that far out of whack. It's just the idea that the way that we're engaging with this up here, the Two of Swords, so the way that we're thinking about how we use language, our words, that whatever we're ruminating on, whatever we're stuck on there, is also influencing the way that we see ourselves. It's influencing our belief system about what we believe to be possible. It's influencing how we see relationships between other people in the world. It's influencing a lot, and that could be indicative that there's beliefs that need to change rather than the world itself as being an inhospitable place. That isn't to say that the world or that parts of the world or the communities or places or people cannot be inhospitable. This is just to say that in this reading, that is the reading that I'm getting, is that through dropping these priorities, we've lost faith in our ability to create and change what it is we want to create and what it is we want to change. This King of Wands, I'm going to look at the card here and see what comes up. This is somebody who is, or no, this is about acting and behaving. So a lot of times people say that, oh, this is about a person, and I'm not going to go that way. This is the King of Wands is a sign, the shadow part being that the thing we're not seeing in all of this is that we are someone who is capable of acting and behaving in creative, inspiring, forceful, charismatic, and bold ways. That is what you bring. When you recognize that you have words that need to be said, and then after you say the words, you own what you have said and you learn from whatever comes as a consequence of you saying what you said. It doesn't mean that those words don't need to be said. It's not about self-editing. It's about learning that we're going to get it wrong sometimes. We're not going to necessarily do everything. That is not how you become a charismatic person. That is not how you become a bold, inspiring person. That is not what you do. Is that's not boldness. Is to just say whatever the fuck you want to say and not care whom it hurts or what happens. That's cowardice, if you ask me. That's cowardice to say I don't care. To care is to be brave, to care enough even after you have said something and you have to apologize for it, is an act of bravery, because conflict, especially under white supremacy, especially under patriarchy, conflict feels like a threat to our ego, a threat to our well-being, because we've learned that, a lot of times in childhood we've learned, or through other systems, that conflict can lead to us not getting our needs met. But this is internal conflict, and you're the one who's helping advocate for you getting your needs met. And I think that this could lead you to being able to do more of that. But again, there's a challenge here. Like, if you're not feeling hopeful about things, which is what this card, the star card, is about, which you can look at this picture if you wanted to online. It's just, I'm not going to show it because it shows some things that will get censored on YouTube, and I don't want to. I'm just not going to. I don't want to make anyone have to see this that is not necessarily interested in seeing that right now. So, and I don't want to get censored. I just need little stickers or something I can put over things, but it's a lot. It's just like a nude person. But yeah, this is somebody who, again, nude vulnerability. This is somebody who's not afraid to be vulnerable. They're not afraid to be, out with a stork behind him and the star, a bunch of hope. It's got 7 stars, well, 6, 8 stars. If you count the sun. 8 being about turning away from society. No, that's the hermit. My bad. Perseverance, courage, resolve, composure, self-compassion, patience, acceptance, forgiveness, self-compassion. So at what point have you given up on trying to tend to a pain that you have? Whether that is, and that tension, tending to, you do not have to nurture a pain. You know, there's multiple ways to address. A kid is riding down the sidewalk on some roller skates, they fall and they skin their knee. You have 2 choices as a parent, 2 choices. You have multiple choices as a parent, but you have the choice as a parent to focus on that, make a big deal about it, get him a Band-Aid, have him sit down, make him put some ice on it, all that stuff. And plenty of kids get up and don't sit there on that issue. They get back on to the wheels that same day or that next day or whatever, but like that is indicative of the fact that you don't have to respond the same way just because there's pain there. You do not have to allow a pain to continue to fester just by giving it attention. And you don't have to excuse it. You don't have to give somebody the excuse, or the reason to sit and to wallow in that pain. You do not have to give yourself space to feel pain endlessly just because you have become familiar with that pain being present for you for such a long time. And I think that could be something to deal with here. That was our shadow card. What else do you have for us? The Queen of Pentacles reversed. Inverted completely. So the Queen of Pentacles. Let's read more about what she's. This is about struggling to be nurturing and big-hearted. Pardon me. Someone who has been resourceful in moments or in the past, but maybe we downplay our ability to do that. We talk poorly. I'm seeing this crossover here between the words that we use. We're turning inward also. Our very strong use of language, our ability to use language to change things or to cut through things to bring clarity or whatever. We're turning that inwards to ourselves though, and that clarity that we're trying to bring ends up becoming a weapon that we're using against ourselves. So we're using what we know about maybe how we have fallen short at being resourceful or nurturing, how we have how we don't have enough capacity or capability or access to what we need to be able to provide such care, because people around us need things that we can't provide for them. But some way in the way that we talk to ourselves, about this thing has led us to formulate beliefs that have diminished our ability to experience true hope and true self-compassion. And also on the outside, we have also dropped the ball on things that we prioritize, things that we made agreements to ourselves and to others to prioritize and to make time for, to put attention and energy and effort into. We haven't been able to hold up our end of that. Thank you so much for joining me, pile 3. We're going to continue on for pile number 2. We're going to continue on to pile number 3 next. Pile number 3. These are monarch butterfly wings. This is a reading for you. The card that we got for this one was the 4 of Cups. This is where someone sits on a wall, a curb, a sidewalk. They see 3 cups out here in front of them, and a 4th cup comes out as well, floating out of the sky, essentially. And this one maybe has not yet captured their attention. They have 3 cups sitting there in front of them, and a 4th comes out trying to get their attention. Obviously, like in a very elaborate way, this thing has come out and tried to get their attention. And we'll go from here. What message do you have for this? Number 6. This is, I'm going with tough value choices as well as attractive force, a moral or ethical crossroads. So we've reached some place where this person is sitting again, arms crossed. Their hoodie says over it. This is someone who is dealing with emotions, maybe attachments to something that they're not sure about, they're not interested in, they've been hurt by, they've been felt they lack capacity for it and went over it. You know, they feel maybe compassion fatigue. They just have hit a wall and they don't feel like they can continue the way that things have gone. So this could be contemplation, reevaluation, looking at your 3 cups, looking at your feelings about something and trying to reevaluate. Is this something that I want to continue investing into? Is this something I'm going to continue moving down the pathway with? Or is this something that I'm going to start over new with something else? Am I going to entertain this feeling that came up as a result of this thing? Maybe a reaction that I had to that. Am I going to identify now completely with that reaction? Or am I going to, again, contemplate and reevaluate, like, how do I have a relationship with these other 3 cups that I've already had? It could also be about apathy. And perhaps that apathy is the numbness that we're laying over what is underneath these deeper emotions that we're not really willing to face yet. Maybe we feel like we faced it plenty. A person has their phone next to them. They're just like, whoever it is that brought up these feelings, they're very uncertain about. We have a tower card here. There's a fire at the top of a tower. A crown is falling, which symbolizes the change of regime, of power, of who is in charge of what. So there's a power struggle here. There is someone falling from the tower who's in mid-fall. There's another person impaled upon a sharp spike at the bottom of this tower. There's a storm, fire raining down, lightning striking this tower. So this is an incredibly tumultuous time. This is a complete and entire shift or change And that felt incredibly destructive as it was going on and has rattled up like the community, the people, the person, the well-being, the safety, the structure. You know, there's instability here, but you wouldn't know it from looking at this person who is sitting still and putting on a brave face, you know, putting on a face that makes them seem as though they're capable of, you know, I'm over it. I'm over it. I don't care about whatever happened here. But in reality, this whole thing, trying to act like you don't care about it, is only bringing up more. So there we go. Look at that. Try not to think about this terrible, unpleasant incident, this experience. Try not to think about what this could mean, what it is, what's happening, how it makes you feel. Trying not to think about that means you're only getting more of those thoughts. These cups will continue to multiply. Those emotions will continue to multiply. The feelings will always be there. And as long as we continue to sit in that reactionary place and we don't want to choose to look at what it is, reflect and to practice some introspection and reflection and to look deeply at what it is that happened in this tower moment, what we did to contribute to it, and how we feel about what we did to contribute to it and what we didn't do. And how do we move on from there? If we're not happy with what we've done there, how will we do things different next time? Nine of Wands. This is somebody who is close to the end and they've gathered up. They have their wand and 8 other wands. 2, 4, 6, 8. Yeah. 2, 4, 6, 8. And there's so 9 wands. This is somebody who has acquired a lot of creative capacity and ability and talent. This is somebody who has the ability to, you know, strategically wield multiple talents and roles, and they can fight their own battles. There's somebody who is resilient. There's somebody who, let's look at more words we can find. Somebody with courage who can withstand a test of faith. Again, resilient and persistent. I think persistent is good. Persistent because so this is somebody who engages in conflict gladly, and though they're not trying to win, they have earned respect. They have earned respect and notoriety, maybe even but they've earned a lot of connection, a lot of creative ability. And so each time that they complete a conflict, So this does not mean that they resolve a conflict, but every time that they are entering through that portal, so they go into conflict with this moment of tension, these two or multitude of things are butting heads against each other. And as they find their way through that conflict, they're finding themselves with another creative wand to wield. This is someone who sees value in engaging in conflict. This is somebody who sees that you just do what the next step is in the process of creating, and then you find yourself wielding more and more capacity, more and more ability to be creative, to do creative things, and to create more of what you want in the world. So this is, you know, what maybe, again, we're going deeper into it, right? This is what we got. What was our number? Our number was 6, which is about, oh, did we go into this? Did I roll a die? It was number 6, right? I mean, that's what we have now, which is about union, love, sex, bonds, attractive force, tough value choices. Yeah, we did go into this. Moral, ethical crossroads, tough value choices. So, yeah, I'm thinking that somewhere underneath the surface that this is something that you find value in, is you find value in engaging in conflict rather than avoiding it or trying to fix it as quickly as possible. You're somebody who finds value in engaging in conflict and just trying to come out the other side with perspective, with a way to use your wand to create in the world. But that's not the person who's sitting on the sidewalk creating new, ruminating essentially and creating new ways to torture themselves, essentially, mentally, give themselves mental anguish by fixating on what is going on here. Next is judgment. So we have several people. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people standing in coffins. 2 of them look like they are at sea, but I could be wrong. They could be just all in grass. It's kind of hard to tell in the tarot sometimes if it's grass or what. But they look they're in coffins at sea, and there's an angel over on top of them. I'm not going to show this one again because it has nudity in it, but they have an angel over top of them with a pair of red wings and a gold shawl on, as well as a white robe and a red cross with them. This is such a tough card for me to read because I feel like I get a lot of like Anglo-Saxon Christian read from it, and it just, like, what do I say? What do I say? Old decisions and situations are coming back to light. Things are coming out in the open to be faced. I mean, that makes sense. So, and okay, so what I'm seeing is that, like, we have done all this work. We're here, trying to forget that we feel these things at all, and more of them showing up by the minute or the day or whatever. But like, we're continuing to be ruminate essentially on this issue, or to be apathetic to it and to pretend like it doesn't matter to us. I don't care about that. It's not my business. I don't care. It doesn't mean anything. Yeah, so whatever. We got into a fight. Yeah, so whatever. Me and my best friend hate each other now. Yeah, so what? So that being the crux of the issue, that we are doing all of this out of a fear of being judged out in the open, for people to see, to being asked to face what we have done, what we have been okay with doing, and we don't feel confident that we can be wrong or make a mistake or own up to that which needs to be faced in a public way. So we're also not facing it in a private way. And it's actually by not facing it that we're enduring more judgment and fearing more judgment from other people. And so perhaps, like, in that fear of judgment from others, we're also going back to this, and we're going to project this tower situation out into other situations. So like, we're gonna pretend like we don't care about this, we don't, find value in conflict and all of these things, but we're gonna find ourselves in more tower situations where power dynamics or power paradigm, shifts are happening. Power, what is it called? Power struggles are happening, or we're going to find ourselves in more situations where we're engaging in conflict, perhaps not leaving with the ones. So like we don't feel like we're getting anything out of it. And so, then it becomes like this exhaustion from just like trying to engage in conflict all the time. And again, our fear of judgment could also be driving us to project out into that judgment out onto others. And at best, if we're not projecting out onto others, which is projection happens when we assume that other people are thinking the same that we do. So perhaps we wait until we find somebody who affirms us and says, oh yeah, that shouldn't have happened. And pardon me. And then we pour so much into that we lose something. Again, we lose this ability to connect to a creative part of ourselves because we're focused on never having to endure judgment, which we're capable of. We're capable of being judged and withstanding that. Harsh judgment may break my trust with you. Then that trust can be repaired. And if it can't with you, I can find a way to trust myself. Is that, yes, I trusted that you wouldn't break my trust, but I can't guarantee that 100%. It's actually very human of you to not be trustworthy sometimes. And that doesn't mean that that's a pass, but it's just a simple, like, it's very easy to pass judgment on others, and it's very difficult to withstand judgment. And I think that there's a connection often that whenever we are at our most vulnerable and least willing to withstand judgment from others, we are also being our most judgmental of others. And it's painful to do that. It doesn't mean that the judgment is wrong. It doesn't mean that there aren't times where this is a protective measure. But this fear of judgment and this apathy is something that could be dug into, because again, we have some value choice to make here. Is what we are putting our attention on, is it what we value? Is what we're putting our attention on what we want to grow more of? If you're burying it, you better want it to multiply. And if what you're burying is these other emotions that you have about the situation, or that you have emotions about the situation, that you feel something about the situation, or who you feel engaged in a power struggle with you, or who you feel impaled you at the bottom of the tower, or let you become impaled at the bottom of the tower. Whatever it is you feel, let yourself feel it. Even if it feels like you shouldn't, even if you have judgment about your feelings, feel them, and name the judgment maybe, and say, I'm feeling really judgmental, and what is this a sign of for me? Because I have that in my own boundary system, that whenever I find myself being really judgmental, it's a sign that I could use more gratitude practice. And when I engage in a gratitude practice in response to my own judgmentalness, my own desire to meddle in other people's lives, something in me changes. And it is far easier for me to take a step back and to re-engage with people where we can actually connect with each other. It's not always a foolproof thing, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be able to go back and fix this tower. This is just, how do you deal with this after you've done with it? The tower has fallen, the crown has fallen, the person's impaled, and the other person is on their way down. Who knows? They could be looked after. These are people who deserve, that person deserves to be taken down off of that tower. This other person deserves to be found and figured out. And if they are alive still, they deserve to have company with them. These are things that the fallout from the situation that happened deserves your attention. This judgment doesn't really need more energy. You have the ability to engage in conflict and to come out of it a stronger, more capable, more creative, and more inspiring person to yourself and to others. And if you think that you are less capable of being able to do that than someone else that you've maybe engaged in conflict with or had a power struggle with or whatever, that's a reaction to what you're feeling. And it may make sense for the moment, but it doesn't make it true. Thank you so much for joining me, Pile 3. And I hope that this resonated with you. Thank you again, and we'll see you next time.